Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see about the Apache, Storm and Spark. Let us see first of all what are they, and then we will find out the differences between this Apache, Storm and the Spark. So let us start with Apache, Storm and Spark are the platforms for big data processing that work with real-time data streams. That means these are the platforms where we can work with the big data. And the term real time data stream means data as it comes, it will be processed by these in these platforms. The core difference between the two technologies is in the way they handle the data processing. So how they handle both of them? So here Storm paralyzes task computation while Spark paralyzes data computations. What does it mean is, here we can either parallelize, that means we can divide the total project into multiple jobs, and then they can be into multiple tasks, subdivided into multiple tasks, and these tasks can be computed, work can be done, they can be handled in a parallel fashion. That is called as a task computation, whereas in the Spark it paralyzes by the data computer. That means data are divided into some chunks. That may be some grids or some group of data. They are divide the data into some groups, and operations are performed on those groups. That is called as a data parallelization. And there are other basic differences between the APIs, that is the application program interfaces. Let us see the differences one by one. Before that, we see the definition of the Storm and the Spark. So let us define first of all. Apache Storm is a real-time stream processing framework. The Trident abstraction layer provides Storm with an alternative interface, adding real-time analytical operations here. So this definition implies that Storm is a real-time data processing. It's a stream processing. So the data comes in stream. That means the data flows like a stream. Means it comes in and like a river. That means the data keeps on coming inside. That is called as a stream. So this Apache Storm is a real-time stream process. That means data are processed as it comes inside the system, and it has a Trident abstraction layer. That layer helps in as an alternative interface, and also it helps to do the real-time analytical operations. And on the other hand, Apache Spark is a general purpose analytical framework. That means it may not work as much as with the real-time data, but it works with the general purpose analytics as well as the stream of data. It looks as if it is real, near the real stream, but it is not as much a real stream data like a Storm. So that is the definition for the Storm and Spark. Let us see the differences one by one in the following table. So the first difference is all about the programming languages. So Storm can work with multiple language integration. That means many languages that task can be combined, and their Storm can work. But in the case of Spark, it has some specific languages like Python, R, Java, and Scala. And regarding the processing model, a stream processing with micro batching is available through the Trident, whereas in the Spark we have the batch processing with the micro batching available. So what does it mean is, the processing model here, in Storm, it works with the stream processing. That means data as it comes, it's a real-time data processing. But in the case of Spark, it collects the data as a batch. So the batch processing is done along with the micro batching operation. Okay, that is done through the streaming operation. And the next differences are the primitives. In the Storm, they have the primitives such as the tuple batch partition, whereas in the Spark it has the data stream, which is the D stream. Okay, because we know that Spark works in the data parallelization, and here this Storm works with the task parallelization. So for that we need some primitives, and they are the tuple batch partition and the D stream for the Spark. And based up and regarding reliability means how much the data is ensured to reach the destination. So we have three options here: exactly once, which is a trillion, and then at once, at least once, and at most once. In the case of Spark, it is only exactly once. So what does it mean is the reliability says about the data. Okay, how the data reaches the destination. So for that we have the exactly one option is there. So here this means the data will be delivered exactly once and ensures that there may or may not be the loss of data, and at least once is the data is delivered once, and there may be some multiple deliveries or maybe there, and in the case of at most once, there is only one time the data is delivered and it may not guarantee the delivery of data. That is the utmost once concept. So these three are available in the case of the Spark, whereas in the case of a Storm we have the exactly one option. Okay, and next is the fault tolerance. Here the automatic restart is done by the supervisor process, but in the case of the Spark it is done by the worker restart the operation through the resource managers. So here in the case of Storm, it is a automatic operation. It is a Spark. It is a worker. The job is resolved by the manager through the resource managers. And some more differences that says about are the state management. What is the state management is how the data comes from one stage to the other stage and how it is being passed. That is called as an state. Different states will be there, and the data stays in some state and transmit to other state. So here in the case of Storm, it is supported by the trillion, and in the Spark it is supported by the streaming operation. And in the case of ease of use operation, it is harder to operate and deploy in the Storm, whereas the Spark is easier to manage and deploy. These are all the basic differences between the Spark and the Storm. Now let us see one by one. So up to this these differences, it is enough to convey for a 7-mark question if at all it is being asked. But if it is asked for a big question like a detailed question for 15 marks or 10 marks, higher marks, we have to explain the all the differences one by one. So here the first is the programming languages, as you see in the table first column. So programming languages, Storm has a multiple language features. That means it can work with the Java, Clojure and the Scala. And in the case of Spark, it has only provides a high level streaming operation which is done by the APIs and for the following languages such as Java, Scala and Python. And some advanced features such as streaming from the customer, there is a custom resource are unavailable for the Python. So there is some limitations by using the Python language. Okay, so however that is overcome by the external advanced sources such as the Kafka as well as the Kinesis for all the three languages. And regarding the processing model, as we have seen, we have two different ways. One record at a time, which is a tuple, and otherwise it may be a micro, that is a batches, discretized batches. So in the case of Storm, how it happens is the processing model of a core Storm operates with the tuple streams. That means it acts directly on the tuple or the record, one record at a time, making it a proper real-time streaming operation. So as it works with each and every record which comes in really, that is the real-time processing, and that is the way this Storm helps to achieve the real-time processing technology. And in the case of Spark, we are having the Spark processing model divides the data into batches. So as we know that this Spark works with the data participation, okay, and whereas Storm works with the task parallelization. And here your Spark parallelization, these data are divided into many groups, and those groups are the groups of records, that is before further processing. And the Spark streaming API provides the option to split data into micro batches. So here there is a streaming operation is there in the Spark. It helps to divide the data into micro batches. That is about the processing model. And then the concept, the picture is given over here. So it's a data stream where the receivers get the data. So now we are all talking about the data, the big data processing. This is all about the big data processing. So for the data comes in, and the receiver receives the data, and it is put into batches. That is by the Spark streaming operation. So we are the resilient distributed batches. Okay. So now let us see about the primitives. Based on the primitives we have in the Storm, it operates on the tuple, because we have seen that it has only the tuple operations. So there are some primitives where it can work with the tuples, while Trident operates on tuple batches and platforms. So we have batches and platforms, and the Trident API works on the collection in similar way comparable with the high level abstraction for Hadoop. So the main primitives are spouts and bolts. What's a spout? Spout, that generates a real-time stream from a source. That means it gets the data from the source as a real-time stream. That is the purpose of the spout. And for the bolts, it ensures the persistence of data. That means it holds the data in different stations. That is the bolts. They perform data processing and holds the data for long time. That is the persistence. And regarding regarding this in the Trident topology, the operations are grouped by poles. So group by join, like how we do in the table operations, joining the table, aggregate the table, selecting the data for some queries, putting some filters in the data. Same way, this Trident topology helps to do the group operations, and by this it helps to process the data. So the picture is given over here. The data streams, spouts are there. Spouts ensures the data is getting in, like the is a tap symbol, like a water tap symbol is there, and when it is received, this bolts ensures that the data is persistent throughout the stream. So this is how the Storm works. Okay. And regarding the other processes in the Spark, with the Spark streaming, the continuous stream of data divided into discrete streams. So a sequence of resilient distributed databases, RDDs. So Spark allows two general types of operations on the primitives. So stream transformation operators, where one data stream is transformed into another data stream. That means some data are collected, received, and it is formed into different stream of data as and when some process is over. And there are output operators which helps to write the information to the external systems. That are the primitives where the Spark uses to process the data. So based on reliability, we have seen already three options: at least once, at most once, as well as the exactly once. So as the name implies, at least once delivers once the data, and there is no the multiple deliveries is also possible, because at least one possibility. That means it can deliver multiple times. And in the case of at most once, it deliver only once, but any duplicates, there is no duplicates. That means the possibility of data lost is there. But in the case of exactly once, data delivers once without any losses or duplicates of data. So this guarantee the data is received properly. So these are the three options. And in the case of Storm, the Storm uses at least once and at most once options, whereas in the Spark this uses the exactly once operation. Okay. Reliability and fault tolerance means as some failure occurs, how it is going to withstand and how it ensures the data is being passed or processed. That is called as fault tolerance. So both Spark and Storm are fault tolerant at a similar level. So in the case of work failure, in the case of Spark, it restarts the workers through the resource managers, like such as Yarn. Yarn is a tool for managing the JavaScript runtime environment. So any driver failure uses a data checkpoint for recovery. That means if any failure happens, from that point, recovery is done. That is the case of in the Spark. But in the case of Storm, if a process fails in the Storm or a Trident layer, if the supervising processes handle the restart automatically. That means the zookeeper is one such plays a crucial role in state recovery and management. So these things, the fault tolerance talks about any failure happens in any of the machines, any of the nodes. So that recovery is done in some other checkpoint. So Spark and Storm have different way of doing this fault tolerance. And the last two points comes on the state management. So state management is every time the data is passed from one state to the other state, how the states are tracking of data is done. They are having some built-in state management technologies. By this, the Spark and the Storm they track the data, and they also deliver the exactly once delivery. They guarantee the exactly once option. And ease of use and development. In the ease of use and development depends upon how well the documentation is done. So in the case of Spark, it is well documented, and it deploys the Spark clusters. So the clusters are used in order to maintain the usage of this technology. Okay, whereas in the stream jobs are interchangeable with the batch jobs. So that's all about the Apache, Spark and the Storm. Hope it is easy and simple to follow, and thanks for watching.